Hello, dear listener. Today you will hear a story that took place in the days of the Wild West about a woman whose spirit was stronger than betrayal and death. This is a story about how one day a seemingly hopeless situation turned into a real miracle and a fight for justice. If you like stories like this, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us create new stories and share them with you. And now let's dive into this amazing story that proves even when everything seems lost, a person can awaken the power to change fate. The wind blew across the desert plain, bringing with it dry dust and the bitter odor of the prairie. The sun was high, scorching the earth, which seemed hot beyond belief. In the distance stretched a lonely fence, broken, mangled by time and wind. Beyond it was a small ranch where the last cows struggled to find food. On this storm-weary world stood a woman. Her face was weathered and tired, and an unbroken will burned in her eyes. Her name was Evelyn Harper. She had already lost much, her family, her friends, her wealth, and her hope, but all that remained was her small ranch and a burning desire to live.
The emptiness all around,
she said quietly, looking at the horizon where the sky merged with the searing earth.
No one seems to be able to hear me here.
She sighed and walked slowly toward the old fence to see if any cows had escaped. Each step she took was heavy, as if the air itself was pulling her down. Behind her back, her past was quietly tearing itself out, the bitterness of betrayal and loneliness. Only now, when her hands were blistered, when every morning began with a struggle for survival, did Evelyn realize that this land would not forgive weakness.
I must hold on,
she said to herself.
If only someone would believe in me.
The silence was broken by the sound of footsteps. Someone was walking down the dusty road toward the ranch. The woman stopped, tense. A tall man in a shabby coat and wide-brimmed hat appeared in the distance. A shovel gleamed in his hands, a strange and threatening sign in these parts.
Who are you?
Evelyn asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart was pounding in her chest. The man came closer, his eyes hidden in the shadow of his hat, but his voice was calm and hard at the same time.
My name is Jack. I've come to do what others fear help you go where peace awaits.
Evelyn settled slightly to the ground, surprised. She wasn't dying, though she seemed on the verge of it.
Peace?
She asked with disdain.
I am alive. I'm still breathing. And you've come to bury me?
It wasn't my decision,
Jack said quietly.
It's what the people who pay for it say. And time is running out, Miss Harper. No one knows how much you have left.
She stood up, looking into the stranger's eyes. Fire burned in her gaze.
If you think you can just bury me without opening your eyes, she said firmly, you're sorely mistaken.
Jack fell silent, sizing up the willpower of this woman everyone had already written off. The wind picked up again, kicking up dust over the vacant lot, as if calling for a new battle, for life, for the right to stay. Struggling rancher was hired to bury her, but she opened her eyes before the first shovelful. Jack took the heavy steps in silence, taking his time, as if each movement was difficult for him. His shovel rested heavily on the ground, but the point was clear. The grave had to be ready by sundown. Dust, kicked up by the wind, sat on faces and clothes like a harbinger of trouble. Evelyn, leaning on the old wooden wicket, watched him with icy calm. Her skin was dry and withered, her face pale, and her movements slow and uncertain. She could barely stand without support anymore, and everyone around her noticed it. The wind played with the rags of her dress, as if to remind her that she had little time left.
You shouldn't have come here,
she said with difficulty, her voice shaky but still steely. Jack lowered the shovel into the loose earth, his eyes meeting her gaze.
It wasn't my decision,
he said quietly.
And there's more money involved than you can imagine.
Money?
Evelyn grinned bitterly.
Everything revolves around money. They want me out so they can inherit the land, the house, the cows, to get rid of the witness, to finish a case that started a long time ago.
What are you going to do?
Jack asked, tilting his head slightly.
Live,
she answered faintly.
Let these cows graze no more. Let everything burn. I'm not going to give up without a fight.
Jim, the old farmer and ranch neighbor, stood nearby, rubbing his beard thoughtfully. He had long known that Evelyn's fight was doomed, and though his heart was with her, his mind told him otherwise.
Miss Harper,
Said Jim.
this is not a game. The grave awaits, and no one will stand up for you.
Evelyn looked at him challengingly.
If you think I'm just going to let you bury me alive, you underestimate me.
Jack began to dig. With each blow of the shovel into the ground, he could hear the thin crust of dust cracking and crumbling. It was quiet, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Evelyn closed her eyes, and her mind flashed back to the past. Happy days with her family, carefree evenings around the campfire, her first steps as a rancher, but also shadows, the betrayal of a friend, the cruelty of people who wanted to see her dead. She remembered the day it all went wrong. Strangers broke into her house in the middle of the night, leaving only ruins and ashes. She'd been accused of crimes she hadn't committed, and now they wanted her gone for good to cover their tracks.
I won't let you.
She whispered, feeling her strength return with each breath. Jack froze, the shovel in his hands as if frozen in midair. He'd seen many people die, but in her eyes, this wasn't death. This was war.
You're more than just a woman on this ranch,
He said at last.
and it seems I'm going to be more than just a gravedigger now.
The wind suddenly came with renewed vigor, blowing away the dust and leafing through the pages of a destiny yet to be written. The day is slipping towards sunset. The sun is no longer scorching. It seems to be watching the scene, coloring the earth with a muted purple light. Everything is ready. The hole is dug. Jack, wiping his forehead, breathes heavily. Nearby, on an old blanket, lies Evelyn, pale, almost motionless. Her breathing seems to have been held forever. Farmer Jim is bent over her, feeling for a pulse. He shakes his head.
That's it. She's gone.
He says grimly. Jack is silent for a long time. He's not a doctor, but he's seen enough dead bodies to know something's wrong. The pallor is too lively, the face too straight. But he doesn't know what to say. He takes the first ladle of earth, walks over to the hole, sighs.
I'm sorry, Miss Harper.
And at that moment, when the clod of earth falls into the hole with a heavy thud, she inhales sharply. Her eyes fly open, wide, in horror, in fury, in life.
Stop!
A scream so loud and unnatural that Jack drops the shovel. Jim stumbles back and falls to his knees. Nancy the cook comes running out of the house, mouth ajar, eyes full of terror. The cat scurries under the porch in terror.
What the devil?
Jack exhales. Evelyn sits up, coughing, panting, as if returning from the other side of the world. Her hair is disheveled, her face wet with sweat. But there's fire in her eyes. Not fear, not panic. Anger and will.
You were dead.
Jim stuttered.
I felt your pulse myself.
It was poison.
She hisses.
A sneaky poison that slows her breathing. I was set up. They wanted you all to think I was dead. But I'm alive. I'm alive. Do you hear me?
Nancy gasps and backs away.
Who did this to you? Who did this to you?
Jack no longer looks like a calm gravedigger. Now he's a soldier, ready to stand by his side. Evelyn wipes her face and rises to her feet, albeit trembling. Every movement is a struggle, but she stands. Unsure at first, then firmer. It's as if the very ground beneath her is coming alive.
The people from the city, the ones behind the bank, the paperwork for the land. My husband died for a reason. They knew I had no proof, but I had a tongue, which means I'm dangerous. They poisoned me so I wouldn't live to see my trial.
This is crazy.
Nancy whispers.
Are you sure?
Yes, they gave me wine, sweet, almond-flavored. They said it was for strength. And I felt my throat start to tighten. My hands felt woozy. And then, darkness. But I heard everything. You, your footsteps, the shovel.
And then, in the distance, I heard the clatter of hooves. Quick, heavy like a sentence. All eyes turn to the road. From over the hill come 3 riders wearing black cloaks. One of them holds a rifle in his hand.
They!
Evelyn exhales.
They've come to make sure I'm dead.
Jack raises the shovel, clutching it like a weapon. Jim snatches an old revolver from his pocket.
Hide behind the barn!
Jack shouts.
Now!
No!
Evelyn stands right in front of them.
I won't hide anymore. I didn't come back from the dead to bury my head in the ground again.
Evelyn, you can barely stand.
Jim tries to stop her.
I am standing. That's all that matters.
The riders come closer. Evelyn recognizes the face of one of them at once. Mr. Cole, the bank manager. He once gave her a loan with a smile, then coldly demanded every cent. It was he who came to the house before her husband died. He was the one who said, "If anything happens, don't worry. The bank will take care of you."
Harper,
Cole grinned.
they say the dead never get up, but you must be tougher than you look.
You look like a coward for coming here to kill a woman 3 times.
Evelyn said. He flinches. Jack takes a step forward, but Evelyn raises her hand, stopping everyone.
I'll tell you what you did. I'll get to the judge. I'll get the marshal. If the whole town is bought, the truth will come out. You can shoot, but I'm not the same person I was this morning.
Cole clutches the rifle, but then stops. Something in her gaze, a cold determination, almost supernatural, makes him pull back.
This isn't over.
He hisses.
No,
Evelyn replies.
it's only the beginning.
Night fell quickly, as if covering the land with a shroud. The first shadows were already looming over the ranch as Jack mounted the horses.
Are you sure you're ready?
He asked, looking at Evelyn.
I can't wait. If they realize I'm alive, they'll be on the trail. I need to get to the city first. Find the judge. Find someone who hasn't sold out to Cole.
Jim handed her an old rifle.
It's your husband's gun. He'd want you to have it.
Thanks, Jim.
She kissed him on the cheek and jumped into the saddle, Jack by her side. They rode off, leaving a puff of dust and the crackle of dry grass under their hooves. They were headed for Cold River. Halfway to town, near an abandoned bridge, the horses suddenly snorted and stood up.
An ambush!
Jack whispered. 2 riders sprang out of the bushes. One fired without aiming. Bullets whistled over their heads. Evelyn did not hesitate. She jumped from her saddle, rolled over a rock, and returned fire. One of the attackers fell from his horse.
Let's go, while there's still a chance!
He shouted. They galloped again. Only one rider chased them, but he soon fell behind, wounded. At dawn, they reached a secluded hut in the mountains. There lived an old witch doctor named Agatha. She had once treated Evelyn's husband. Agatha let them in silently. She looked at Evelyn and shook her head.
You're as pale as a shadow. I heard you were dead.
Almost. I'm back.
Agatha brewed a bitter infusion, washed Evelyn with cold water.
The poison was rare. Almond?
She asked, and Evelyn nodded.
Who gave it to you?
Cole. Through his men. He wants the land. It's all about her.
Do you have any proof?
Evelyn pulled a scrap of will and bank records out of her bag.
It's all I could salvage. It'll be enough if I can find Judge Barker. He's old, but he hasn't sold out.
The next morning, they set out again. A lean traveler on a donkey caught up with them on the road.
I saw you at the bridge,
He said.
Nice shooting, missus.
Who are you?
Tom, seen a lot of things. I can help you get to the judge if you promise me that when you get to the truth, you won't forget about the common people. The bankers have taken everything.
Evelyn nodded. He joined them. They were already waiting for them in the city. 3 of Cole's armed men stood at the entrance. Evelyn didn't bother to hide.
We're not going quietly.
She said.
We're going loud.
They entered Cold River in the morning sun, like a little caravan of truth. The saloon was hushed. Faces in the windows. Evelyn entered the courthouse. Judge Barker was there.
You were dead.
He began.
Noonbother. I was alive. And now I'm here to prove it. And not just that. I brought the papers, and I'm ready to speak under oath.
The judge was trembling, but he took the papers. He read them. He was silent for a long time.
It's dangerous,
He said quietly.
but I believe you.
At that moment, Cole's men ran into the courtroom. One raised a revolver, but Jack was quicker. A shot. The assailant collapsed. Barker hit the gavel.
The hearing starts today. Evelyn Harper is alive and ready to testify.
This is just the beginning.
Evelyn whispered, clutching her husband's rifle.
I'll get my name back, and land, and the truth.
The road to town lay through a dried-up riverbed and hills covered with dusty grass. Evelyn rode on horseback, Jack beside her. With each step of the horse, her face showed more and more determination. Destiny lay ahead, and behind her was death, which she had already defeated.
Are you sure you're ready for this?
Jack asked, looking at her askance.
I'm already dead, Jack. I'm not afraid of anything now.
She replied calmly. People gathered outside the courthouse in town. The news of Evelyn's miraculous return had traveled faster than the telegraph. Some came out of curiosity, some out of fear, but many because they were tired of the lies that held this town in a fist. When Marshal Wallace opened the meeting, Cole sat stone-faced. His lawyer whispered something in his ear, but he didn't listen. He saw Evelyn, alive, standing in front of him, and he knew the end was near.
Are you saying you were poisoned?
Asked Judge Roland, a grey-haired man with tired eyes but an honest face.
I don't. I lived through it. And I have proof.
She held out a paper, signed by the local pharmacist.
Traces of potassium cyanide, and witnesses, including this woman,
She nodded at Nancy.
who saw me put poison in my glass.
There was a murmur in the room. The lawyer tried to object, but the judge raised his hand.
Let me finish.
He said,
They killed my husband to get the land, poisoned me to get rid of the last obstacle, and then they hired a gravedigger to bury me before I woke up. They were afraid I'd talk, and they were right.
Evelyn's words sounded like gunshots. Cole turned pale. The judge looked at him and said,
Minus Mr. Cole, do you have anything to say in your defense?
Cole stood up. For a moment, it looked like he was going to say something, but then he just exhaled and sank back down on the bench. Everyone realized he'd given up. The trial lasted a few more hours, but 15 minutes was enough for the jury. The verdict, guilty on all counts. By the time Evelyn left the courthouse, the sky was scarlet. But not like the day she was buried. It was a sunset, not a goodbye. It was the light of the future. Later, at the ranch house, Jack sat on the veranda with a cup of coffee. Evelyn stood beside him, looking out into the fields.
You're not staying, are you?
He asked.
No, Jack. I need to go through all this land, to face all the people who thought I'd give up, and remind them, you can't bury the truth.
He nodded. She turned, walked slowly toward the horse, but she stopped at the threshold.
Thank you for not burying me.
He smiled.
I'm glad you got up before the second shovel went in.
They said goodbye without further ado. In the morning, Evelyn left. On the way, she stopped at neighboring farms, telling her story. Some cried, some laughed, some felt hope again for the first time in years. In the last shot, it's dawn, bright, fiery. The ranch flooded with golden light, and the figure of a woman on the hill, alone but not alone, strong, free, alive. It's been months since the truth came out, and peace has finally prevailed on my ranch. The land that seemed cursed is once again filled with life. Horses graze in the meadows, cows give milk, and the wind brings the smell of freshly cut grass and freedom. I often think of that day when it seemed like the light was out forever. But even in the darkest night, if you reach out your hand, there is a spark that can light a flame. The strength of the spirit is not in never falling, but in rising again and again. I stood strong, not because I was stronger than everyone else, but because I knew that life is a precious gift that should not be given without a fight. Let this story be a reminder to everyone who faces injustice. Don't give up. Truth is like the dawn after the longest night, and it always comes. Freedom is not what is given. Freedom is what you take. Dear friends, if you like this story about fortitude and justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, put a like and write a comment. Your support is very important to us and helps us to keep sharing stories like this. Thank you for being with us. See you again.